Hello, everybody. Um, my name is Rajesh Sitaraman. I'm a Senior Vice President with HCL Technologies. I'm very happy to invite you all to this Winspiration panel discussion today. It's my honor to have you all on this panel, and I'd start by congratulating each one of you for winning your awards. It's a great achievement. It's a testament to the amount of work that you've put in and the passion that you have for your jobs. And I'm hoping that we're able to bring out some of your secret recipes and your secrets to your success and pass it on to the next generation of leaders that we want to inspire through this panel. So welcome again. And if you could all please introduce yourself. Bindhu, maybe I'll start with you.
Thank you, Raj. My name is Bindhu. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Wealth at the Bank of Montreal here in Canada. It's really great to have won this award, and it's a testament to the fact that we're doing some great work here. So with that, I'll pass it to Christa.
Hi, I'm Christa Petros of SiriusXM Pandora, Vice President of Product Development. Likewise, I'm very honored to have received the award, and I'm hopeful that we can see more women in technology across the organizations win awards like this. And on to you, Tracy.
Hi, thank you. Hi, I'm Tracy Pyle. I head our citizen digital organization at BP, and I'm super excited to be here. Very, very honored, and really, I feel I'm in great company, so very honored to be with you on the panel.
Thank you so much. Let's just go into the discussion. We have a few topics here for us to talk about. Bindhu, I'm going to pick up the first topic and ask you to lead us off on that, right? Oftentimes we hear about business leaders having a recipe for success. I'd like to ask you all, what is your recipe for success? Is there a specific mindset or a philosophy, that's contributed to the success that you've had? Bindhu, if you can kick us off with that, please.
Absolutely. For that, I'll give you a little bit of background. So apart from being a technologist, which is primarily what I do, something that comes naturally that I love doing is making connections, right? So the connections are either with people, for people. I connect various people together. I really like doing that. I like to be connected to people. But I also have this from a technology perspective. I know how things can fit together, what should come together, right? So that's kind of been my thing of making connections. So that's really helped me along my way in my career. So how that's helped me is when a problem is presented, I kind of can visualize who are the right people that should be coming together to make this happen. So as a result, I love building teams. So I love getting people together and connecting even various different people, not necessarily just with me. And that's always helped me. Building a great team's always helped me. And I truly believe that having the team, setting a vision and kind of giving them the authority even to say, go do it, right, is really what's helped me along the way and what's kind of made me successful. So that I think is, my recipe, if you may, of success, making connections and building great teams as a result of that, and then allowing them to go ahead and go from there.
Excellent. That's great. Christa?
Yes, I'm going to build upon what Bindhu said. And I believe that the recipe to success for me is keeping people first. In my experience, making people feel essential, important, involved, like they are vital to the success has proven to be really effective, especially when you need them to step up and do more than the normal times. And I think as we look back over the past couple years, that has been the case. We've had to ask people to stretch and do more. And if they feel valued, important, and vital to the cause, they put their heart into it. I'm reading a book right now, The Heart of Business, by Hubert Joly, and his recipe for success is, and he alludes to this in the book, it's about human magic, making human magic. And I think that that's exactly what we do when we put people first.
Excellent. Tracy?
So I'm seeing some trends here. To be honest, I don't think I have, the perfect recipe, but I do, as the others have said, I believe that it's building and developing people and great teams. And I think it's really having a collaborative approach with my peers. And in reality, it's about a partnership, and it's not really about the us versus them or me versus you kind of mentality. It's really about building a great network that I can trust and that can trust me, and to do what's right for my team, my business area, and my company. So, and I think another part of that is owning up to your mistakes and correct them, and never take credit unless credit's due, but always empower your people to do their jobs and lift them up and let them take that credit. And I think just the confidence and the what that drives in them and motivates them, and I think you have them be successful, you're successful.
Absolutely. It's so funny, right? We're all in the tech business, but if you really look at our assets, they leave our doors every day and they come back the next day, right? So it is amazing that you're all talking about the same things about, trusting the people and working together as a team. That's certainly a very important ingredient in a recipe for success. So that is awesome to hear you all kind of talk about people in the middle of all of, right, given what are they calling it, the great resignation and stuff like that. For us to keep our core team together, it's so important that there is a feeling of community, there is a feeling of wanting to work with the other person and being a part of a team. So I'm really thrilled that that's how you're all looking at it. There's a common theme there. So happy to know that that's how the leaders are thinking today. So that is excellent. I'm going to kind of ask, bring out the next topic maybe a little bit. So, so if you look back at your careers, at your successful careers, was there anything that you would go back and change or do differently if you were to start your career all over again? Tracy, maybe you could lead us off with this one.
Okay, I think I would look back and tell my young self to not look at failures as negative, but as a growth opportunity. And I think by doing this, I wouldn't have internalized and lost confidence in myself in certain situations early in my career. I think I'd also surround myself with sponsors and mentors much earlier. I don't think that was much of a thing when I started, but it is now. And it's had such a huge impact on my career, my self-confidence, and just everything that I do. It's you have this this built-in network that you can bounce ideas off of and get your thoughts straight. And it's just been a huge help. So I think that's what I go back and tell myself.
Mm-hmm. Christa?
On my end, I don't know that I would per se do something differently, because I think that each step, as Tracy alluded to, even the failures are part of the journey and part of the process. So, I wouldn't necessarily do something differently, but if I look at my entry point, when I came in a couple decades ago, I chose an entry point, and it was through getting a bachelor's of science in electrical engineering. And, fast forward a couple decades now, I think I would choose a different entry point if I were starting out today. And just based on the market trends and identifying how everything is so software centric. So I might choose an entry point that's more aligned with, a computer science opportunity, versus my past electrical engineering opportunity.
Interesting. Bindhu?
Probably I must have backpacked a little bit more and taken time to travel before I got into work, I guess. But jokes apart, yeah, that's definitely something I must have done. But anyways, apart from that, I would say I think I kind of echo what Tracy was telling there as well. There are times when in your careers, I'm sure all of us kind of doubt ourselves or have these questions, and I hear that it's more women that do it more often, and it could be unique to each of us, and I've had those times too where I used to be an architect, and as an architect, I used to be one of the sole women architects on the team at some point. And there have been times when I questioned myself because either I wasn't heard, and I or I didn't want to speak out because the first time you're not heard, you kind of take it as, oh, maybe I should not talk anymore, or I'm not giving the right information, and you get shy and things like that. So I've had some of those in my career, and I've had strong mentors that have helped me come through it. I've had strong teams that have, kind of spoken and helped me. And I think I would in fact suggest that again, coming back to Krista's point, I don't think there are mistakes that or things that you would necessarily say, oh, I didn't learn out of this. Everything's a learning opportunity, right? So I would in fact tell people that are starting off their careers and things, saying have a strong support network, depend on your teams, build those connections. And the really, really important thing here is we spend a large part of our time that we are awake in working, right? So that's the truth, and you really need to make it a connected network that can support you, right? And depend on that network and work through it and give back into that network when it's possible. Like, that's really the important point. Sometimes we depend on the network, we are ready to take from it but not give back into it, right? And that's like my learning saying, always give back into it, because it's us that have used it that needs to give back, and then it becomes every single person's thing to give back into that, right? So I would say connect, don't be shy, ask people's help, and give back when it's possible, right? Those are like things that I've learned along my career, if you may.
That's interesting. So, based on what each of you said, how you'd look back and if there was anything to correct, what you'd correct, I am starting to see a trend, especially in the tech industry, where, Tracy, to your point, they're talking about mentors being available to new recruits early. And Krista, to your point, they're talking about younger and younger folks getting into the workforce, right? So I know of programs where they're starting to talk about, with the high school diploma, come in and join the technology company with, a mentor to guide you. Education is something that the companies can sponsor. But get in early and build a passion for a specific area of technology that could contribute to the society. And Bindu, that kind of leads to a network of younger folks, not prejudiced by an education that they may have had, to get into an organization and contribute to a certain type of technology or certain type of technology that contributes to the society. What would you how would you all react to something like that? I mean, that seems to be something that is picking up in the industry today, in different parts of the world, actually.
I can start if you want. So I think eh, we've done this before. So I know years ago, we had, there were work programs with high school that we partnered with for STEM and several other community partnerships that BP does, where we had high school grads, or they were still in high school, come and maybe work part-time as a work program. And it was very interesting because after they graduated from high school and went to college, they'd come back on their summers and work. And I think the ones that I was around, almost all of them got hired at BP after they graduated college.
Mm.
So I think that's already something that I don't think it's new. Maybe it's getting resurfaced. But I think it's a great idea, especially with the organizations right now struggling to find the technical resources. I think the earlier we can start, and I know BP is really big with the STEM organizations and trying to get women into the science and technologies, but it's not just reserved for women. So it's definitely something that we do and are very interested in.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'll echo what Tracy is saying, specifically from BMO as well. We are big into STEM. We're big into getting diverse groups, women. We have a large Black networks that we support. We support Indigenous people in different ways. So I think we have various networks, and there's definitely more that we continue to strive towards. If you see, that's one of our goals, that we want to keep doing it. And absolutely, like the STEM mindset is something that we're very interested in, because digital technology is the future. There's no going back from where we are now, right? So that's very, very clear. So absolutely, we do have many programs, but always doing more. And I would say that all our programs today are at different levels. Like there's the ones for the universities, there's ones for the colleges, there's ones below. I don't think anything yet reaches high school, but we do have certain sponsorships and things that we do. But yeah, it's a great way for us to ensure that we get the younger generation into science and technology streams, and also get them to start understanding even our industry finances. For example, right? We give them finance education, even just to say, how do you manage your own personal finances? Because today everything is done by the parents. I don't think we know what to do, because you don't see cash anymore, right? When somebody gave you $100, you knew what to do with it. Today it's all a credit card. So my daughter says, just swipe your credit card. Like when you tell her that's too expensive, just swipe your credit card, right? It's like money is no longer like you're not seeing it. It's just a card, right? So yeah, we are doing a lot of that. But yeah, Raj, we would be delighted to explore more, and we do a bunch with our partners too. So that's a good way for us. Even if we can't do it by ourselves, we want to work with our partners and others to do more of it, right? So absolutely.
That's excellent.
Raj, one of the things that we've done at SiriusXM is set up a part-time program. It's technical. I originally targeted this for women who had technical degrees but wanted to take some time off to care for children. And it was always my biggest fear when I chose the path of electrical engineering. How am I going to have a family and work full time and juggle everything? And so what started out to be an internship program evolved into a permanent part-time program where we were able to leverage and draw in women who had taken time off, who would like to get back in the workforce, would like to do technical work, and through our part-time program, we were able to create, a decent-sized team. And when there were openings within the company, full-time openings, and when the individual might be at a point in their life when they were ready to get back full-time, we created those opportunities. So I think, looking at this holistically, there's an earlier entry point, but there's also that kind of mid-level point where sometimes people have to make life decisions, and we don't want to penalize them for that. They have great skills, they have great talents, they have great abilities. How can we tap into that, bring them back into the fold? And so that's been a hope of mine through this program.
That is excellent. So very encouraging to know that each of you is involved in a program like that. I'm going to ask you another question off of the previous one. I asked you about, would you change anything in your career when you look back? But was there any failure in your career that actually motivated you to go at your career harder? Is going to be what the next topic that I want to throw in front of you. Christa, if you could kick that off for us, please.
Sure. This one's interesting. For me personally, it doesn't fall back on a personal failure per se, but I was working at Motorola in the late 90s and early 2000s, and that business started to fail. And the facility that I worked at was closing down. And I was there up until the very end. And it was very difficult to see people that you had worked with, over the past decade, either have to find new jobs, get laid off. And it was at that pivotal point that I decided not to move to Chicago and stay with Motorola, but to transition to, at the time, which was XM Radio, a growing business. And in my mind, I just thought, I really want to be part of something that has an upward trajectory. And I did make that move. And initially, the move that I made was into a role that wasn't a growth opportunity for me. It was a role that I kind of knew like the back of my hand. I had done it, for years at Motorola. But with making that transition and into that role, in a few years, with the merger of Sirius and XM, a bigger role for me was created that I was able to step into. And so I like to think of it as, the trajectory is not always straight. Sometimes there's zigs and zags, but there are abilities along the way to leapfrog. And that was a very valuable lesson for me.
Interesting. It's an industry change or a path change for you. May not have been linear, but you're saying took something here and then allowed me to launch further in my career. That's an interesting.
Right. And I couldn't have understood that at the time, but I was just kind of, going on faith, being part of something that's growing, seems to be the right move. But I couldn't have foreseen, the opportunities ahead. I just trusted in that feeling of, moving out and moving on into something new.
Right. I see that ad on the TV and they still talk about, hey, can I get satellite radio on my laptop? So I can imagine when you joined how it might have been. So excellent input there.
Yes.
Tracy, how about you? Any failures that either in the organization or around you that kind of motivated you?
Well, like I said before, I don't think it was really any one failure, but I think it was more around the way I started looking at failures. And I think once I started embracing them as an opportunity, whether it was my failure or somebody else's, but as opportunities to learn or teach others, that was huge. And it actually absolutely changed my outlook and my risk tolerance and, things that I would actually, want to try or go and do new things, because I lost the fear of that. But I say from a career changing thing, it was something I thought of as a failure at the time. I was outsourced from a company that I worked with, and I was outsourced into a technology company, and I being in digital had never worked at an actual technology company. I was in digital at an engineering company or then at an oil company. So I saw it as a failure, but in reality, it was the best thing that ever happened to my career is to be in that technology field. The amount that I learned and grew as a leader, but also in my capability, my technology background, it was huge for me. And then I've come back to working in the energy industry again, and I think I bring a wealth more of knowledge, not just about how I work, but how I work with my partners, and just the whole being on both sides of the table. I think it's helped me in my role today that I have. So.
And your industry is going through some massive changes, right? I mean, energy transition is going to be impacting each one of us here and everybody in the world. So
Yes.
yeah, you're on to a newer industry, I guess, as you go forward.
Yes.
Bindhu, how about you?
Well, really good to hear everybody's stories. Yeah, again, for me, it's more than failure. I would say these are turning points in your career, right? So, yeah, for me, I come from a core technology background. I used to be a developer when I started out. I moved into architecture, and like I said, I would connect people, make connections, but at the same time, wasn't really ready to kind of do different things or take on that risk, right? I'm good at this, I do this is really what I want to do. So when there were opportunities that came up that said, do you want to go lead some of these things? I'd say, no, like I'm an architect, like I can do this well. I'm a technical person, I can code this well, right? Like that's really where so it was my own failure of being able to kind of take that leap of faith in myself, right? That I had to overcome. And I think once I did that, when an opportunity presented itself, I like I said, I had people that also said, you can definitely do this. So there was a little bit of external motivation, but I also had to push myself to say, okay, this is a big risk, but you know what? I think I can do this. Let me go ahead and actually take it up. So when a large M&A presented itself and they were asking me, are you okay to get this M&A done from a technology perspective, end to end, including business and everything? I didn't know the business completely really well, but I knew the technology part very well. So I had to take the leap of faith and say, okay, let me go ahead and do it, because I had to build large teams. I had to connect with two existing large organizations that had conflicting interests at many times, right? So I had to really take that and say, okay, I'm going to go do this. And it was me overcoming my own fear and moving my risk appetite to a different level. As Tracy was talking about risk, I think that's where you kind of say, okay, I'm ready to go and do this. And you need to really know what's supporting you as you go through this, right? Definitely, I had to think of all that a little bit more seriously, but that was my turning point for me, and that kind of changed things, if you may.
That's awesome. So basically, all of you have a theme of being open to opportunities and not worrying about failing when you're going on to take on the new opportunity, right? That's a very important thing for us to convey to the people that are listening to us. I think technology has done a great job for us, right? So a few years back, I think we coined the word "fail fast." So, so I think it's pretty apt. Go at it hard and don't worry about the failure, and learn from it and go do it the better way the next time. So that is really nice. There is the next topic I want to ask you and talk to you about and get your inputs on is inclusivity, right? It has been a very important topic. All of our organizations are really, pushing hard to make sure that we are an inclusive environment. As senior leaders, how are you encouraging, more inclusive organizations? Is the first part of my question. The second part of my question is, do you really see and believe that an inclusive team, you all spoke about how you depend and build your network. So is an inclusive and a diverse network of people in your teams, does that make the whole team think differently? And does it kind of diversify the views around, how you go to market with the plans that you have? Christa, maybe I'll start with you on that.
Sure. I think to encourage more diversity and inclusion, people within the organization have to see it at the senior leadership level. They have to see more women, they have to see more people of color, they have to see representation from the LGBTQ plus community to know that we mean it. It's one thing to talk about it, put a lot of presentations together, give some training sessions, but it's another when they see the faces that are part of the team. So, I know, from my personal experience at SiriusXM Pandora, we've been through a lot of transition in this area, and it is reflected in the senior leadership team. So, I'm proud and happy to be a part of an organization that, levels the playing field. And, in my experience, my entry point, as I mentioned, was very electrical engineering focused. It was 1 in 10, one woman to every 10 males. And the organization that I worked at for the first, 10, 15 years of my life, that was continued to be the trend. I do feel like in the past, 5 to 7 years, that is evolving. That trend is evolving, and we are seeing more women at all levels within the organization. And I do feel like the results, are indicative of the benefits of including more diversity within the organizations, the growth and the expansion of the businesses. And, we look back at the last 1.5 to 2 years, and, many businesses struggled, many businesses suffered. Some businesses found a sweet spot, and they were able to flourish under the circumstances. But if we look at it at the bigger picture in context of the changes that have been in process with including more diversity in organizations, we can absolutely see positive trend of improved business results.
Excellent. Thanks for your inputs on that, Christa. Bindhu?
Absolutely. Like, I think there's been tons of research done to show that inclusive teams are extremely productive, no matter which industry, what circumstance you take, right? So I don't think anybody questions that anymore. So it's absolutely required. I think the question of how do you encourage it, how do you really do it, becomes the challenge, right? Organizations everywhere are doing a lot, like coming to BMO specifically. Like I said, we have real numbers, metrics that we stick behind. There's the concept that what doesn't get measured doesn't get addressed, right? So there's absolute measurements that we do to ensure that all this happens well. So that's all the pieces of, hey, the organization encouraging you, giving you the support to do it, right? But I think at the end of the day, it comes to also individuals, each of us. So what I generally tend to see, and what I have seen is, in my own career, be it women, be it a different, it could be a racial thing, it could be an ethnic thing, like whatever it is. I think what happens a lot of times is there is this bias that nobody is even aware of, because when you see a few people and when you're working with them, what you tend to say is, this person is exactly like me a few years ago. So they're really bright, they're doing this good work, they're like me. And now, without even realizing it, you put yourself into a situation where you like a specific person more, or you think they're doing better because they are like you. Like, how many of us think that in our heads when we see somebody younger or people doing it, right? And that is the first problem. So what you've done by doing that is you've already put your bet on one or two people or a few people that are very similar to you, and you've not included the rest of them. Right? So I think that is a mindset change that I challenge myself every day, and I challenge my peers and folks around me, and also my teams. I say, give it some thought, and don't always say, this is like me 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it is. Are you ready to accept complete change and say that this person's doing things absolutely differently from how I did it? It's absolutely different from how I would do it today, but it's working, it's great, and I'm ready to adapt to it and give that person the chance to grow, right? That's really how we can get inclusive, because the more people we have represented in the higher ranks, it's been seen that those organizations have more inclusive teams even at the lower levels, right? So that's really what is needed, that we need to get people up. And the only way to really do it is to say that I'm okay for the other person to be completely different, yet successful, doing it in a complete different way that's not related to my path, my life, and my career, right? And that's been working really well, and that's how we've been building our teams. And this is personally what I do, apart from what the organization has, all the support that it's giving us to ensure that we get a slate that's very diverse. We get to we get to kind of tell everybody, and we actually challenge ourselves saying, have I got a diverse slate? Have I looked at that as a lens before I make any hiring requests or before I do promotions? So yeah, of course, there's all those guardrails, but I think this internalization of it and thinking of it in this way in a day-to-day basis really helps build that inclusivity in teams.
Excellent. Thank you, Bindhu. Tracy?
Yeah, this is a tough one in today's world, because I think inclusivity is not enough. And I think it's about equity as well. And it takes everyday actions in the way that you work, the way you meet, the way where you recruit, the way you partner. And you have to make an effort to get to know the people around you and what's important to them, what drives them, what are their stories. And I think this is, it's really challenging, as you've heard, is, you want to be with people like you, that think like you, that look like you, and that's just not the way to solve the problems of today's world. You have to have that diverse, input to understand that. And BP takes this very, very seriously. But it's not just a check mark. It's not just a recruitment, target. It's so much more than that. You have to actively engage in the communities and listen to what needs to change and listen to what equity means to each of the different areas. And I think one of the things, I mean, we have a lot of communities around this, and some real big things have come up in the last year. I mean, one of them was around, not having the right size glove for women that go into the field, and not having, it's things like that. It's the small little things like that you don't realize that make a huge difference in that equity component. And so I think this is a huge journey. We're not even close to being finished. And we just have to keep it in the forefront of we have to be talking about it. We have to continually talk about it to make sure that we're getting it right.
You mentioned small things, Tracy. And Bindhu, you mentioned it's a mindset change. Don't look for the people. Don't look for you and the people that you're trying to either hire or work in your team. Christa, you made a great point about if you don't see it, do you really believe it, right? So, I am trying to do the same with me. I used to get on calls with men and women and go out and say, "Hey guys," and I've really stopped doing that. I don't say, "Hey guys" is a common way of addressing both men and women at the same time. So yeah, each of us has to practice a lot of things to make sure that it's not just a word that you're using, but you're really putting into practice, right? So I do get that. I just want to ask you, is the hybrid working model that we have today, because each of you said, it seems to be a touch factor in the ways that you all explained how we should go about it. So how do we get around the challenge of this, hybrid workforce? There's two types of teams I'm seeing here, right? Some companies are saying, come in a few days a week, the rest you can work from home. What happens at that point? I don't know about, like, for example, what we've done and I've done with my team is I go into work a few times a week, but my team comes in the same days that I go into work, right? Because I don't want to be just 3 days a week and not have my team around me. So just a question for you all. How do you look at the new world? I don't know if you all agree with me that we're never going to go to the 2019 ways of working anymore. That's what I believe. If that is true, and if you believe in that, how is that going to pose a challenge for us? And how do we be more inclusive in that kind of an environment? Maybe Tracy, you can kick it off on that.
Yeah, that's a hard
Is,
one.
is it a challenge? If it's not, I can understand that too.
So I know that, yeah, at BP, we're going to the hybrid model. So, 60% in the office, but really it's more, that's just kind of a guideline. It's really about the type of work you do. So
Mhm.
I know my direct reports, I have no one in Houston, and my peers and my line, they're not in Houston. So I don't really have, I mean, I do have a lot of people in Houston, but not that I work with on a daily basis. So we're really trying to push, when you need to collaborate or, from that perspective. But I mean, to this day, I haven't met my new team. I haven't, not face to face. I haven't met my new line. But it's worked. Is it ideal? No. I think there's nothing like face to face when you're trying to solve a big problem, being able to get around a whiteboard. Yes, there's lots of tools out there. You can do it remotely, but there's nothing like getting around a whiteboard and collaborating with people you work with to solve problems. No distractions, no phone calls, no dog walking around in the background, none of those kinds of things. That, it means a lot. So I think I prefer to have that hybrid solution. I wouldn't want to be 100% at home, although right now we're the office is closed again. But
Mhm.
it's just, I think it means a lot to be. It's energizing. That when we opened it up for a bit. It just recently closed again. Every time I go in, it's energizing. Just the vibe that you get being around other people.
Mhm. Christa?
I agree with your approach, Raj, which is have your team come in the same days that you're in. That's the model that we're targeting. We also had the offices open briefly, but it was still on a voluntary basis to come in. And we were supposed to open February 1st, but it's going to be delayed, and it's not clear how long it will be delayed. But we've talked about it among my team and within the bigger team, how to make it as effective as possible. How do you strike that balance? And we definitely believe, many of us do believe, that some in-person interaction is essential. I come from a really cohesive, highly functioning team that has worked together for a decade. So it's easier than when you are trying to bring new people into the fold, because obviously we have our past experiences to leverage, and a lot of knowledge about each other. But when you have someone new, that changes the dynamic. So we're on the cusp now, in your mind, and in line with what you said, the Great Resignation. We're on the cusp of having to bring in new people and integrate them into what was traditionally an established, very long-term cohesive working environment. And so I do think that in-person interaction is going to be essential to making the new people feel part of what it is that we have and what we've established over time.
Nice. Bindhu, your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I think like the hybrid is probably here to stay. It's time will tell us if we're going to go back into the 2019 kind of a model. But I think from an inclusivity perspective, this probably is a model that we'll have to see how to make it work. I totally agree with Tracy and Christina's point that, Christa's point that, there is energy that you get when you're in person and when you meet people, right? And there are a lot of us do get that extrinsic energy that we require to kind of, be on top from a day-to-day basis. There's also it's helping people because when I talk to my teams personally, there are quite a few folks that say, I used to have a 3-hour commute, like 1.5 hours each day, each way, and that's being saved. And I'm getting time to spend that time with my 4-year-old now, or my 5-year-old now, or, I'm getting to do something different. I've started exercising for an hour because I get this time. So I think it's different for different people. And there are also people that say, I absolutely want to come back into work because it's craziness. I can't concentrate on anything at home. And, everybody's personal situation is different. So I think the good part is we might get into a place where we're able to cater to individual needs now, rather than trying to say this is holistically how all of us should behave, right? All of you need to be here 100% versus, all of you mandatorily have to work from home. I think organizations are realizing that it's much more. So that way, people feel cared for differently. And I think we're all taking the time now to say, what's your situation? Because the joke, of course, is that everybody is in each other's living room and dining room now because people are taking their meetings, calls, their work from various places. So now you're actually taking the time to ask that, because even though hallway conversations were great, and you might have had that. And a lot of personal conversations, I also feel that would have happened when you're in the hallway. Sometimes it's always only about work because you're already in that setting. Now, because of the fact that Tracy's dog walked in the background, or my daughter came here to say hi to me because it was her lunch break, there's a different conversation that triggers where it makes it more personal, right? So in my opinion, I think that's the silver lining, and that's the opportunity here that we need to grab and say, what is the right way to make this personalized? We have personalized everything, right? We all personalize every single application that we use. So maybe this is the way to personalize work, if you may, right? And that's the opportunity that I see.
That's interesting. So maybe then a hybrid model affords us to push the envelope and be more real with being inclusive. And Christa, to your point, anybody who's taken a break probably never wanted to come back 5 days a week in the office driving. Maybe they have an opportunity now. So maybe it's an aid for us to push harder on the topic of inclusiveness. Maybe so. Interesting take there. So shift a little bit to some inspiration kind of topics. We've all had families and people around us, friends, support us, without which we won't be where we are in our careers. So, are there people or or teams that you want to kind of call out or talk about how they were instrumental in helping you move your career along and make you successful in what you're doing? Bindu, maybe I'll start with you on that.
Sure. I think you already mentioned, and everybody is going to kind of say, yeah, it's similar. When they say you can't have it all, it's kind of true, because you always give up certain things to do certain things, right? And I've had a lot of those moments. So I'll start off with just my family, right? Like without the support of my family and friends, I'm an immigrant here in Canada, and so I didn't have a large family. And I have a little girl who's 10 now, but as she was younger, I was, I've had my own things in my career. So there have been multiple instances, and I just wanted to give one funny example of how important it is. So she actually does classical Indian dancing, and for the dance, there is a lot of makeup and specific set of clothes and specific kind of hair that you need to do and all that. And I generally tended to do it. And she had a program, and unfortunately, I had to travel for work, and it was a non-negotiable thing. So I really couldn't negotiate. And she was in tears because she had this program to go to. And trust me, my husband can't tie a ponytail, right? And it's not because he doesn't try. It's just not him. He is not the one that can put on makeup or try. And he's tried. And she's like, Dad, he's really going to dress me. And this is like my 6-year-old, like in tears, right? I said, you know what? Hold, let me see what I can do. I'm trying to determine what should I do. Should I send somebody else for this important conference that I'm actually presenting at? It's too late to do that. The program came in last minute. And I just spoke to a few of my friends, and the community, my friends, came together to actually, they said, don't worry, their girls were in different kind of dancing, there's variations. They said, we'll learn how to do this and we'll do it. And everybody came together. And on the final day of the program, there were other kids in the class, in the program, whose parents also helped her to finally get it right. So it takes a community, it takes like people to help you to get there. And I could go finish my conference, and I did see her on video when she did it, and she was happy. She said, we did it, Mom. So it was a 6-year-old, so nothing would have happened if she hadn't been in the program. But it just like to have it all takes a lot, and it starts with your friends and family. And I have tons of these examples where my team stood up for me in times when I've done the other way around, where I've had to stay back. Something's happened, my daughter's unwell, I'm unwell, and my teams picked up from there and said, don't worry, we'll do this for you. We'll sit in this meeting and answer and take the tough questions. So frankly, in my opinion, this is really what matters: the community, the connections, your family, your friends, and your mentors that have, I don't want to leave them out, like your bosses, your mentors. They're people that support you without even you realizing it, right? And I've had tons of these. I can keep telling stories, but I'm sure you want to hear from the others too.
Absolutely. Tracy, you want to give it a go?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. It's definitely family. But I would have to say, I think the first person kind of who gave me that essential support to kind of get me on my career journey is my father. He has been in digital since punch card days. He's in his 80s and he's still very much up on current technology. But he taught me, I think he taught me and supported me to learn the difference between being a manager and being a leader. And he's the one who always stressed to me the most important thing that you can do is support your team, support those around you, and they will make you successful. And he kind of drove that into my head, um, and has kind of been a counsel for me throughout the years when I've had problems or, want to bounce ideas off of somebody. And him and my husband has been a big role in that as well. But as you grow in your career, it takes a village, as as you say, you have to depend on people around you. Your success is never alone. It's always with everyone around you. So I would have to say it's my family mostly.
Excellent. Christa?
Great. So these women are so inspirational. I was originally, when I saw this question, I was on the path of, speaking about my mentor, right, who I met through work. And he was amazing in that he sponsored me to attend the Stanford Sloan program through Stanford's Graduate School of Business, which, if I look back, was really just one of the most amazing times in my life, where I could be surrounded by amazing people in an amazing place. And I learned so much through that. But when I was listening to Tracy, one of the things that came to mind, I have a daughter, and I read a book actually on behalf of my husband. It's called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. And I was going to read it and then give him the Cliff Notes version, right? How to raise a strong daughter. But through the process of reading it, it just highlighted to me the reason that I'm on the path today is because my father, he was supportive of me. He, spoke a lot of confidence into me. He paid attention to me. And all of those things, I think, gave me the foundation, to maybe go down the road less traveled, to pick the harder path, to take on the challenges. And so I didn't want to leave that out, because that was fundamental to, the later on opportunities where, under the mentorship of some of the, great managers that I had, to expand upon the opportunities and to grow into an executive position, which was beyond my dreams. I never could have imagined, when I was starting out, where my path might lead. I feel so blessed and just so thankful for all the people along the way that have helped me.
That is awesome. So we'll stay with you and ask you a quick question on that's inspiration from family and friends. Is there somebody in business today, or somebody from the world of business that is like a role model for you? Christa, get in a word from you.
Yeah, this one's hard, because I do think there are so many amazing people, but I have to say that, for me personally, the current CEO of SiriusXM, her name is Jennifer Witz. She rose to that position after spending many years within the company. And of course, as it went through its transitions, she started in finance, she moved into marketing, she went into president of operations, until she finalized and landed her role where she is now CEO. And I think because I had the opportunity to witness her journey, I really got to see, and I knew her at the various stages in her role. So I really was able to understand just how intuitive she is, how she's able to roll up her sleeves and problem solve and, make the business stronger. It was very inspirational for me to kind of have a up close and personal view of that in play. And so for me, I find her to be, at the top of my list.
Excellent. Bindhu, your inspiration?
I would say there have been many, as Krista said. It's hard to just point one, but for the latest, I would say is Mary Barra, the CEO of GM. The way she's taken on a company again in an industry that's primarily male focused, and also brought in complete inclusion into the company in a way that's also motivated her teams and taken the team along that journey is truly inspirational. So she's one of my latest right now.
Tracy?
Okay, I'm going to sound cliche, but I've had a lot of very inspiring leaders, but I think our CEO Bernard Looney, and I mean if you think about it, I think he's probably one of the youngest CEOs taking on a big oil and gas company like this at 49 when he came into the role, and he too grew up through BP. But he's taking 100-year-old oil and gas company and completely reinventing it, not just an org change. I mean, he's significantly changing our company. And his approach to doing it, I think, is what inspires me most, is the way he's not just, talking to, the analysts. He's talking to those who oppose him. He is talking to those who criticize him. He brought them on, many of them on as part of the transition to help guide him to make sure that he is addressing some problems, the problems of the world that we face. So I think it's, he listens to what we have to say. I have seen him take changes in his actions based on feedback he's received from the employees. He talks to us on a regular basis. He was having monthly throughout the entire the changes we were going through last year. But not just talking to us, but listening to us and answering our questions and addressing what we were concerned about. He changed when he was gonna, we were going through a big change, so we did, reduce the labor force, and he put that on hold because of the pandemic. I mean, he's genuinely caring, and I think that the approach he's taken to changing our company is just revolutionary. So I have to say it's him.
All great names. All great names, each of them inspirational. Tracy, I'll stay with you on the last topic. How are you looking at your career going forward? Two-part question. What do you want to have at the end? What will you look forward to, and what is the motivation behind that?
Yes, I think I made a significant change in 2021, and I moved from an area where I was primarily around subsurface and wells domain technology, and that's where I've spent most of my career. And I've moved into a central area that has a much broader remit. In reality, I think it's in its infancy. So I really want to see my vision come to fruition. And, I haven't really thought too much beyond that because I think I'm a couple years away from that. But to tell you the truth, BP is a real technical workforce in the sciences. So it's about bridging the capabilities between what we have in digital and what we have from a domain technology base. And that's really the area I'm in now across, all of BP. And so, the motivation there is I'm motivated by learning. And so helping others learn and grow, I think it's a real passion of mine. So I think that's really what keeps me motivated in this current direction.
Excellent. Krista?
I would say that the top motivation for me is my team, the relationships, the connections, the collaboration that we have and that we've built over the years. In terms of looking ahead, I'm at a point right now where I'm trying to figure out exactly what is the right next step for me. I have some friends, and I would even consider them mentors, who are kind of speaking to me about making a change, and I'm trying to understand and translate that. And so, I'm on an exploration right now. We just instituted a very formal mentorship program at SiriusXM, and I have been a mentor in the past informally, but I had elected to be part of the program and to be a mentor. And also, I think I would like to participate and find a mentor as well. And again, more formally, in the past, it's kind of happened organically. And this is a little bit more of a structured way to go about it. And so, I'm very hopeful and optimistic that I'm going to learn some new things that are going to help direct me and guide me to that next step.
That's awesome. Bindhu?
Very quickly, I think we've announced some large mergers that we have just done. We just merged with the Bank of the West in the US. It's one of our biggest mergers. So I think from a short-term perspective, we have tons of work. So building up those new teams, making connections is absolutely what I'm looking forward to. But I think overall, every time, every part, every day is a new learning. I learn something new every day. So looking forward to continuing that learning, making connections with various people. And I think I'm also looking to give back into the communities that I've drawn so much from, be it at work, be it around. I think that's something that I want to start looking at seriously, to say where and how can I give back. And that's something that I've started exploring. But overall, I think that learning never stops. And that's really what I'm looking forward to, and building some great teams and making great connections for people so that they can continue everything that we've been trying to do is absolutely things that motivate me.
Thank you. So I have to tell you that I've got three new, people that I'm going to look up to from a business standpoint. So thank you all for being a part of this panel. I was really honored to do this with you, and look forward to staying in touch with you. Good luck with your careers, and congratulations again on your awards. You deserve it, very much.
Thank you, Raj.
Have a great day. Stay safe, and good luck.
Thank you, Raj. You did a great job leading us.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.